First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for welcoming us here to Iqaluit. It's really, really good to be back. We were sitting around in Nuuk yesterday morning, and it was pretty cloudy and pretty windy. And I was texting Gwen, and the plane hadn't left yet, and the pilots were waiting, and you never know, right? So, but around noon, the weather was just totally quiet, and the sky was clear, and we were able to go across the ocean in only 2 hours, and then we were here. And being here for a OneHealth gathering is something that I really look forward to. It's something that I've talked to Gwen about for, it feels like many years. Of course, we're not getting older, but I remember about 10 years ago, the first time I had attended a OneHealth session at an Arctic Health Congress. And then after that, Gwen and I were in several Arctic Council meetings. And at one point, we were like, so OneHealth, so this concept, as if the connection between animals, environment, and humans is new. And we were both looking to what we'd learned in our Arctic communities and really wanted to have this gathering and a lot more discussions about understanding what this connection looked like from the Inuit perspective. So nice to be here. Also, and I'm not sure how to change the slides. Someone has the power to do that. Just click the next slide. Just one quick word about the center that I represent, Inudaasut Paqisosianik Ilismedusafik, which is Center for Public Health. We're based at the University in Nuuk in this building, and then also at the University of Southern Denmark. And if you go to the next slide, so just a quick note on our perspective on health. So my close partner and friend, Inge-Lise, she was gonna come. She had a medical issue she had to attend to, so I sent her greetings to all of you. We've been working to develop a framework for community health, which is very much inspired by a lot of what we've learned from Gwen and Gwen's colleagues and other partners in the Arctic, where we have Timidanak Anasa in the middle of everything, body, mind, and spirit, and having an approach to health that is much more than social determinants, and so much what we've heard this morning as well. And so if you go to the next slide, I'm really happy that we were able to come, a full Greenlandic delegation, thanks to the government of Canada. And not least that we have our Nalagastuisok for Health, Minister of Health, Agathe Fontaine, who's sitting down here. We have Aviaja, whom you'll meet in a while, or just in a second, actually. She'll be the first speaker. I was trying to get a picture of Carsten, who's also speaking, but Carsten's last name is Rex, and only T-Rexes were coming out when I was trying to get a picture of Carsten Rex. So he sent me a selfie that we took in the King Air last night, or last afternoon. And then we have Nikki Bertelsen, who's a permanent secretary, Agarolesen, also at the Ministry of Health. Head of section, we have Anar, who's a researcher at the center that I work in as well, and also chair of the ICC Health Steering Committee, and a powerhouse in suicide prevention, not least. And we have Camilla, who's a senior researcher here as well in our center. So we're so thankful to be here, and I will let you, Aviaja, speak now, and Aviaja will tell us about this important work that she's doing about developing a bachelor in biology, but I will let her speak to that.
Okay, I can start by introducing myself. Aviaja mi ataqarpunga, siullorpaam oqarusuppunga, qoyanaruissuaq maangaqaarqusaagamma, ullumi piffisammanna, ataatimorluta atorsinnaagitsig. My name is Aviaja, and as a first thing, I would like to express my gratitude for being invited here onto these lands. This is my first time here, and it's such an honor to be here. I'm very honored to be able to share this space and time with you. It was really transformative for me to see that it really takes just 2 hours from where I was born and grew up in Nuuk, to get to here, to Iqaluit. Let's hope that this will, let me know if you can't hear me.
Yeah, I need to stand a little bit closer to the mic.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So what I would like to talk about today, and I'm really excited to be talking about that, especially after Sila's presentation this morning, is a biology bachelor program that we're developing at the University of Greenland, Iqaluit. But before the presentation comes on, I also want to briefly mention, because there were some, Annie, some of the things that you said this morning also really reflected a lot of things inside me, because I do research. I'm trained as a microbiologist, and I'm very interested in understanding how, for instance, eating the ptarmigan's innards or eating our cured foods, how they feed our internal ecosystems, because we have lots of microorganisms inside of us, a whole ecosystem that's so important to mental and physical health. And we eat a lot of things that have lots of microbes on them. And I truly believe that those microbes connect us to our environment in a really good way. So I really appreciate also what you said this morning. Okay. Let's see. And today is the 1st of February. And that means that in 1 year exactly, except for the fact that in 1 year it will be a Saturday, but in 1 year exactly, we'll start a new biology program at the University of Greenland. We do not yet have natural sciences education in Greenland, so this will be the first natural sciences program that's offered to Greenlandic youth. And we're really excited about that. We got our final acceptance for running the program back in November. So this is very exciting. We have 1 year now to prepare the program. All right. It's okay? I'm going to try and see. Okay, good. Perfect. As I said, my name is Aviaja Lyberth Hauptmann, and I'm going to be talking about the SIDA bachelor program today. It's a bachelor program where you become a bachelor in biology. And I would like to start by telling you a little bit about the structure of the program. What does it contain? But then I would very much like to spend some time talking about how it connects to health and why it's called SIDA. And I think a lot of you will recognize this word, SIDA. There are a lot of people involved in this work, of course. I'm the one leading the process, but I am collaborating with a lot of wonderful people. And the primary institutions involved in this is Qaujigiartiit, the University of Greenland, located in Nuuk, and Qaujigiartiit, the Greenland Institute of Natural Resources, which is sort of our sector research institution around public management of biological resources. So I wanted to become a biologist since I was a little kid, because if grown-ups were asking me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I would sort of feel inside my stomach, like, what do I really like to do? And this is what I really like to do. These are memories of childhood, going hunting with my family, going fishing with my family. Just being out there in our environment is the best thing that I can imagine. And it gives me this feeling of strength and something that I just really love. And my parents told me, well, biologists deal with stuff out there, so maybe you can become a biologist. So that's what I wanted to become, and that's what I've eventually become. And a few years ago, I was offered the chance to lead this process to create a biology program in Greenland. And I was trained as a biologist from the University of Copenhagen. The University of Copenhagen is right in the center of Copenhagen. So when I stepped out of the door at the university, I would be like at the central station. So not much biology there. So when I was offered this chance, I really wanted to rethink biology from a Greenlandic perspective, because this is our university. This is Ilisimatusarfik. It's right at the edge of the Nuuk Fjord. When we sit in our classrooms, we can watch the climate outside. We can go right out the door and we will be in biology. So we have a very rare opportunity in Greenland to create a biology program that looks very different from the one that I was at the University of Copenhagen. Also because so much of our culture has to do with the biology around us. And that's an incredible strength that we have that we could put into this program. So what this program is really about is to think about what are our strengths and what are our needs, and how could we build a biology program around that? Not how does biology programs in other places look like, because they might be suitable for those places, but we have some very particular strengths when it comes to our relationship with the environment. And of course, those can be used to shape an excellent biology program. So we have attempted to design what we call a Greenlandic biology program. And what has come out of that, what has come out of not assuming that biology in Greenland should look the same way as in Denmark, for instance, Greenland was colonized by Denmark 300 years ago, is a biology program where we have a different way of learning biology. And I think a lot of you will agree that if you've grown up here, or if you've grown up in Greenland, you already know a lot of biology. And that's, of course, something that we need to integrate into this program. So the main thing that's different about this program is what you see here. So what this figure shows is that we have a program that will be 3 years. Each row is a specific year. And then each year is divided into certain courses. So we have quarter structure so that you'll have a course, some courses in the first quarter and then another course in the second quarter. The important thing here is that when I was studying biology, I started off with a course that told me about the taxonomy of animals. Then I had a course in genetics, and then I had a course in math and statistics, and then one in animal behavior. Instead of having courses like this, where we sort of disintegrate biological knowledge into these silos, we will have a course in Appa, the guillemot. We will have a course in Qimmilq, the sled dog. We will have a course in Tuttu, the caribou, and so forth. And then we'll learn biological knowledge from these contexts instead. To give an example, I want to highlight something that Sheila said this morning, which really point what we're hoping to do. So what she said was that caribou hunting is not just about technical skills. It's about character. It's about life skills. It's about patience and courage. It's about persistence, focus, and judgment. There's a lot that you can learn from going caribou hunting. So of course, our students are going to go caribou hunting. And when you do that, there are technical skills that you can learn. You need to know how to behave safely in the environment. You need to know how to handle guns. You need to know legislation. When can we go hunting and why? You need to know animal behavior. Where do you go to find the caribou? They're not down by the ocean, so you can't just jump on land and then shoot them there. Where do they go and why do they go there? All of that is relevant biological knowledge, but it's also knowledge that can help you hunt. And you need to be able to shoot and aim and actually hunt animals. And once you have an animal, you can learn something about physiology and anatomy. And also in the same time, what do you do when you've shot an animal? How do you prepare this for eating? What are the parts of the animals? That's anatomy. And then I have an image of the caribou stomach, which is something that I'm very interested in because I am a microbiologist, and what happens in the caribou stomach has a lot to do with microbiology. It has a lot to do with biochemistry. So there's a lot of things that we can learn when we're looking at the caribou stomach. It's sour. That has something to do with pH and chemistry. So our students will have sort of their hands inside the chemistry before we talk about the theory behind the chemistry. And then this last photo is the dunnop. Why is the dunnop, the fat layer, so important to us? Well, it is. It tastes amazing. It's important, but it also has something to do with human nutrition and biochemistry. So there are things that we can learn from why our parents or grandparents would always ask, how's the dunnop? How thick is the fat layer? So all of the courses will be about 10 weeks. And each course will have a similar structure to this. So this shows sort of how is the content of the course divided into certain sections, starting from the top and ending at the bottom. The top thing, the first thing that we'll do in each course is to get a perspective. And that means our students must understand, why is what we're about to learn important? Why does it matter to them? Why does it matter to us? Because we really want them to be motivated to learn what they're about to learn, so that it's in a context of something that's important, so that they know this piece of perhaps slightly detached understanding of chemistry. Where does it belong? Why is it important to learn? And then they're going to prepare for field work. So that's a skill set that's very important for biologists working in Greenland in general. So that's something that they're going to do again and again and again, prepare for field work. And then each course has three main pieces: field work, lab work, and then theory. So we're going to start by going outside. We're going to start by having our hands down into the chemistry. Then we're going to go in the labs, and we're incredibly fortunate that we have amazing facilities to go into the lab, because recently a Danish foundation donated a building for natural sciences education. So we have excellent facilities for taking things into the lab. So once we've had our hands in the things, once we've been out and had this sort of bodily experience with the biology, then we'll have lectures. Then we'll do work with data and do calculations and do stuff like this, so that there's sort of a backbone of experience that you can attach this theory to. I think for a lot of people, that's how we learn the best, is really by having some experience that we can attach knowledge to. And then we have an innovation aspect, which might be very different in different contexts. Here's an example of a different course, the Qaujigiartiit course that deals with the shrimp. So the perspective here, of course, is to let the students understand that 50% of the income of our nation depend on this tiny little creature. It pays our hospitals, it pays our schools, it pays homes for our elders. So why is it important that we manage this resource well? Why is it important that we understand its biology and that we treat it well and that we treat our environment well? That will be the perspective for the shrimp course. Then we're going to go out fishing. As much as we can, we want our students to have hunters and fishers as lecturers as well, so that they really understand their perspectives of what they have to deal with in their working life. We can go into the lab, look at fish physiology, earstone measurements, microbiology, all these things. And then we'll have the lectures by scientists or by elders, by fishers, and so forth. And then in the end, we'll have an innovation aspect. Sometimes the innovation aspect will be very classical, sort of entrepreneurship. Sometimes it will be about taking a step back and thinking about, is the way that we do this management process, for instance, today, really the best way? Have we reflected on if this is the right way to do it, or could there be other ways of doing it than the way that we do today? And then we have three overarching themes that will sort of be recurring throughout the program. Climate change is, of course, one of them. A lot of young people who will have biology training today will have to work with climate change in the future. And a lot of young people want to work with climate change. Then we have conservation and biodiversity. A A lot of our students we expect will be going into administration to work with resource management. And then finally, health and nature, which means everything that is human Inuit relationship with our environment. Everything fits in there. Food culture, hunting culture, sewing, being creative. Okay, so that was sort of the outline of what the program looks like. And I think what comes now is actually the most important part. Why does it look the way that it is? What is our sort of underlying ideology behind this program? It's called the SILA biology program. So when we designed this program, we prioritized very clearly that our main priority is Greenlandic youth. Our main priority with this program is to create a program that Greenlandic youth feel at home in, that they will succeed in. And then after that, our second priority is that they have skills that are adapted to the working environment in Greenland. And then all priorities after that are just not number 1 and 2. And that's very important because when you know your priorities, you know how to choose what is important. So what we really hope to do is that to create a program that builds self-confidence. I know that a lot of first-generation academics, a lot of Indigenous youth going through academia feel that going through that process can actually break down self-confidence. And that's how it feels to a lot. And that's something that we're very conscious about, that hopefully we can do something so that it actually builds self-confidence instead. And Sila also touched upon some of these things, the importance of adapting curriculum, the importance of language. So we're very often asked, which language will you be using? And in Greenland, we have a situation where there are some youth that are primarily Greenlandic speaking. What they often experience is that they come into high school and they will meet almost only Danish speaking teachers. And everything will be in Danish. They will be tested in Danish. And for some of them, this is not a successful experience. And then we have some youth that are mainly or only Danish speaking. And they also feel that they've lost part of themselves and their culture. So there's a lot of tension around language. But it's important for us to say that regardless of whether we are using Greenlandic, Iqaluit, English, or Danish, there will be some students that struggle. There will be some teachers that struggle. And what's important for us is that also all of them at some point experience success. So coming in right after high school, it's very important for us to show that the young people who have grown up in families that have a close connection with their environment, they have a lot of biological knowledge, that we reflect back to them, you already know so much. And a lot of that is reflected in language, and that's why I have an image of the fox here. It's a fox. I don't know, like fox might mean something in Latin or something, but in Iqaluit it's called Tselieniak, the one who hunts mice. There's so much biological knowledge in our language. In the way that we name the cubs of the polar bear or of the whales has something to do with their behavior. As we heard today, the seasons are named after things that we have understood about our environment that a lot of young people do not grow up with today. But there's so much that we can learn from just learning our own language. And hopefully, even the young people who are not great at Iqaluit will learn something new through this program. And then there's another type of knowledge that a lot of youth in our country do not have access to. And that's the very privileged knowledge that you can grow up with if you have a family that hunts and gathers and harvests. And not all families do that, and not all young people have access to that type of knowledge. So what we really hope is that these young people will at least be encouraged to be brave enough to start to learn that type of knowledge. I'm not fooling myself that we'll be able to give them what a lifetime worth of living hunting, harvesting can give them. They will not be excellent hunters after this biology program, but hopefully they will feel that it's okay for them to seek that knowledge, to start to get that understanding. Maybe they'll get the basics so that they'll be courageous enough to start caribou hunting or ptarmigan hunting. And what we really believe is also what Sila said, what that really, really has a lot to do with self-worth. This ability to have skills that are not just things that you've read in a book, but skills that can actually feed you, skills about the immediate environment that you live in, really has a huge impact on self-worth. So I brought this quote, and you all know what this, you know sort of the truth behind what is explained in this quote, but I keep coming back to this when I try to explain what this program is about. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna read it aloud real quickly. What the quote is a Danish ethnographer, Qaujigiartiit Smith, explaining what our logic is like, what Inuit logic is like. And what Qaujigiartiit Smith said was that if their logic differs from ours, I hope this works, and there's no doubt that to a certain extent it does, the reason is another and much deeper one. They do not recognize any clean-cut boundary between what is natural and what is supernatural, nor are their concepts entirely intellectual, but always confused with emotion and volition. This does not mean that they're incapable of logical thinking, but it often gives their thoughts a mystic tinge, foreign and even comprehensible to us. Here, just want to highlight what you said, Joe, among all the amazing things that were said today, but this thing, like respecting things that we don't understand, which this quote really shows that from a Western perspective, from what is really a scientific perspective, we're incapable of respecting that we do not understand, those things that we do not understand. Then it says, here a single example will suffice. A polar Eskimo explained why the bear hunt had failed in the following manner. There are no bears because there's no ice, and there's no ice because there's too much wind, and there's too much wind because we have offended the powers. Thus the illogical element only turned up in his train of thought when his experience failed. So there's a lot of things to be said about this quote, but there are two things in particular that I wanted to highlight. One is that our ancestors understood that the human mind, human behavior, and the weather are connected way before science knew this. Another thing that this quote reflects is this tension that we still see today, and very much so in Greenland, between what we might call classic Western scientific ways of thinking and an Indigenous understanding of the world. And our students will have to navigate in that tension. They will have to be able to know that those things exist at the same time. And hopefully, by training them in a way that we acknowledge this and that we don't hide it and that we deal with it in the program, they will be much better balanced to actually deal with those tensions in their working lives. And that brings me to sort of the last part. Why is it called Sila? Sila, as we all know, is the weather, it's the mind, it's the world order, it's the spirit of the wind. Sila me, to be outside. Sila miu, to be human. Sila soak, world. And humanity, sila soamiut. And this word really tells us what was said many times earlier today. It's all the same thing. And what's very important to us is to acknowledge too that while our students in the context of this program, they will learn about climate change. But the climate has changed because our minds, our behaviors have changed, and they have to deal with that too. And another aspect of this is also, I truly, deeply believe that we can't do something good for our environment if we don't feel well. So it's very important that our students, that we can do all that we can to encourage mental well-being in our students. And that's why we're going to be outside a lot, because I know anyone you ask I guess here, I'm sure here too, but in Iqaluit Nunavut, in Greenland, what is the most important thing you can do to support your mental health is to go out on the land. So as biology students, they will be going out on the land a lot, but not just to take samples or to observe biological phenomena, but to support their mental health. So whenever we can, we're going to be outside. So what you see here, this tent is one of our classrooms, so that we're not going to be sitting inside dealing with theory all the time. We're not going to be looking at screens and books all the time. We're going to be listening and sitting and just be outside in the environment as much as we can to support their mental health. Thank you so much for listening.